Sean Mattis.
Sean Mattis.
Yes.
For the record.
My name is Sean Mattis.
Could you please spell your last name for the record, please?
Mattis.
Thank you. And Mr. Mattis, were you present at the McDonald's restaurant at 1425 Southwest Avenue in the city of Waukesha on February 4th, 2014 at approximately 4 p.m.?
Yes, ma'am.
At that time, with whom were you there with?
I was there with Rachel Torres.
And was there a child with you?
Yes, there was.
Okay. At that time, what, if anything, unusual occurred that you saw?
Well, I was sitting at the table. We were waiting for our food. She went up to grab the food.
She meaning?
Rachel Torres.
Rachel Torres. Okay.
Went up to grab our food, and I seen the defendant here, Mr. Loth, walk by with a device in his hand. I didn't know what it was, but it was like it was on an angle, and he walked by. When
you say like this on his angle, with this device at his chest?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And you said it was at an angle. Could you tell what this device was pointed at, if anything?
Well, it looked to me like it was pointed at her daughter as he was walking by me, because where I was sitting, her daughter was in front of me at the table.
And that's Rachel
Torres'
daughter?
He had walked right by me because I had looked up at him and glanced to see what he was doing.
Okay. Now, how do you know that you were there on February 4th, 2014?
Because we came there to eat.
Okay. Can you tell the court approximately how many people were at that restaurant at the time?
About 12 to 15 people.
When you refer to he, have you been sitting throughout the trial here?
Yes, ma'am.
And with respect to the pronoun you use, he, whom did you see with this device?
The defendant sitting right there, Mr. Loth.
Okay. Is there any doubt in your mind that Mr. LaHote is the person that you saw at that restaurant on that date?
That's 100%.
Record will reflect identification.
Thank you.
Thank
and
you.
Mr. Mattis, what, if anything, did you see after he went past this child?
Well, after he walked by, he was towards my back. So I didn't see anything else after that. Then I just heard the argument.
Okay, he walked past your back?
Yes, he walked on the side of me going down the aisle because I was sitting at the table.
Okay. And how far away were you from him at the time?
Not less than, he was like directly in front of me, couple feet in front of me.
I'm sorry, didn't
couple feet in front of me.
Okay. Did you know what Mr. LaHote was doing at the time?
No, I did not.
At some point in time, did you observe an altercation, a verbal altercation between Mr. LaHote and someone else?
Yes, I did.
And do you see the other individual in court today?
Yes, I do.
And was that Mr. Calderon who's previously testified?
Yes, ma'am.
So reflected.
Thank you. And Mr. Mattis, what, if anything, did you hear them say to each other?
They were both using vulgar language. I don't want to say the words, but
Please.
they were both using the vulgar language. Mr. Calderon was using vulgar language towards the other gentleman, and I was just worried about her daughter, basically.
Just for the record, I'm sorry, Mr. Mattis, but can you tell the court what vulgar language they were using?
Let me explain for a moment, sir. I know that some people are reluctant to do that, but vulgar language is a term that's capable of different definitions by other people, so the exact words that you recall are important for the record. So you're not going to get in trouble for saying.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Well, I did hear Mr. Calderon say to the defendant that he was going to kick his ass, and I heard him repeat some of the stuff that he was saying about kicking his ass. And
When you're saying he, are you referring to Mr. LaHote?
yes, ma'am.
Mr. LaHote repeated what Mr. Calderon was saying?
Yes.
Did you hear any other vulgar language?
No, ma'am.
Okay. How far were you from them at the time that they got into this altercation?
About 2 feet from them. I was right by them.
When you entered the restaurant, can you tell the court what was going on in the restaurant at the time?
Nothing, just people eating their food at the time.
At any point in time, did you see Mr. Calderon attempt to strike Mr. LaHote?
No, ma'am.
Did you see Mr. LaHote attempt to strike Mr. Calderon?
No, ma'am.
And did it appear that to you that Mr. Calderon was trying to rob Mr. LaHote?
No, ma'am.
Were you still at the McDonald's restaurant when police arrived?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you speak to any of the police officers at
Yes,
that
I
time?
did.
Did you give a written statement at that time?
No, ma'am.
Did you have any part in obtaining the license plate of Mr. LaHote's vehicle?
Yes, ma'am.
And how so, sir?
When he was leaving, when he got into his car, I went to the window and looked out at his license plate, and I wrote it down, and then I gave it to Rachel Torres, and she gave it to the officer.
Oh, okay. So can you tell the court what Mr. LaHote was driving away in?
A black Ford Taurus.
Did you ever hear Mr. LaHote call the police department?
No, ma'am.
Did you observe anyone else in the restaurant confront these two individuals as a result of the disturbance that they were creating?
There was an elderly lady. She asked both of them to stop swearing because she had young kids with her also.
Okay. Did they stop then?
No, ma'am.
Other questions, Your Honor?
Mr. Lote,
Thank you.
your chance.
Thank you. You had mentioned you observed me holding an electronic device.
Yes, sir.
Can you identify it if I show you multiple electronic devices?
I've seen the devices that you showed to Mr. Calderon, and none of them were them.
None of them you were able to identify?
Yes, sir.
What can you tell me about that device?
Well, to me, it looked like a cell phone.
Can you tell me if it was on?
No, I couldn't because the back was towards me.
Did you see me take any kind of pictures or videos or angle anything towards your daughter or your friend's daughter?
I could not see because the back of the phone was towards me, so I could not see.
Okay. Do you remember me walking around?
I remember you walked past me, yes.
Do you remember what I had in my hand?
It looked like a cell phone.
And my other hand?
I didn't see anything in your other hand.
When I came back, do you remember me walking past Mr. Colleon?
Not to my knowledge because I was with her daughter.
Do you remember anything that I said in detail?
Not to my knowledge.
Do you remember anything that Mr. Calderon said in detail?
I heard him say that you were wrong for what you did.
Anything else?
No.
That's all you remember him saying to me?
Yes.
Did he swear?
Yes, I heard both of you guys were swearing.
Okay. Did you hear anybody else talk to me?
I heard the manager of the store tell you guys to be quiet a couple of times.
You mentioned an older lady.
There was an elderly lady there, yes, with kids. She asked if you guys could stop swearing because she had kids.
And I remember that situation. Do you remember what I said to her?
No, I do not.
Do you remember if I said anything to her?
Not to my knowledge.
How far away were you at the moment?
I was sitting at the center tables by the window of the parking lot.
And this confrontation happened by the soda machine?
No, it did not happen in about the middle of the dining area.
Okay. How long do you say I was sitting there in the restaurant eating?
I do not know because I didn't see you sitting there because I was paying more attention to her daughter.
Do you remember me eating my lunch there?
Not to my knowledge.
Do you remember me walking around?
I remember you walked past me, yes.
How long did that take?
Well, a couple seconds.
Thank you. I don't remember you. I didn't speak to you. I have no recollection of you or your girlfriend or your
Mr.
daughter.
Lote, once again, what you recall or what you remember is two things. It's you testifying instead of asking a question, excuse me. And secondly, it's argumentative actually with the witness, even though you don't think you're being argumentative, I understand that. But either rephrase the question or you can certainly testify when you have an opportunity. I don't remember this person, but for whatever value it is, and the value may be very minimal, you've made your point. It's getting late. Let's move on.
Do you remember me?
Yes, I do.
100%.
100%.
Do you remember anything else about me?
No.
Was I heavier, skinnier?
No.
Nothing?
No.
But you do remember me?
Yes, sir.
Okay. No further questions.
Ms. Iceland.